Clear your desk. 30 minutes. Don't argue. My manager said it loudly, deliberately, like he wanted witnesses. Conversations died. Screens froze. I didn't cry, didn't beg. I smiled, because the mistake he accused me of was never mine, and the truth was already sharpening its teeth. If you believe power shouldn't silence truth, subscribe now and stay with this story until the end, because what happens next is the part they never see coming. My name is Alara Voss, and until that Tuesday morning, I was the compliance operations lead at Northwell Dynamics, a title people underestimated because it sounded administrative. It wasn't. Compliance is where lies go to suffocate. When Graham Holt, my boss, fired me in front of the entire department, he did it with a confidence that only comes from thinking you've erased someone properly. "You approved the vendor release without final verification," he said, voice clipped, professional, rehearsed. "That violation cost us a client. HR will send details. You have 30 minutes. I noticed what he didn't say. He didn't say investigation. He didn't say review. He didn't say mistake. He said you. I looked around. 23 coworkers, people I trained, people whose errors I had quietly fixed over the years. No one met my eyes. Silence spreads fast when people are afraid it might notice them. "Understood," I said, calmly. That unsettled him. Graham liked panic. He thrived on it. He lingered by my desk as I began packing, arms crossed. "You are always too cautious," he added, louder than necessary. "That kind of rigidity doesn't work in a fast-growth environment." Fast growth, the corporate euphemism for cut corners and pray. I placed my notebook into my bag, then my external drive, then my badge, face down. But I left one thing behind, the access token, because Graham didn't know something important. I didn't need it anymore. As I walked out, I heard the whispers start, not about me, but about him. Fear has a scent, and when leadership overreaches, everyone smells it. I didn't go home. I drove to a warehouse district on the east side of the city and parked beside an unmarked brick building with frosted windows. Inside, on the second floor, was a workspace registered under a Shell LLC. No logo, no sign, just truth. For 18 months, I'd been documenting irregularities at Northwell, not out of paranoia, but pattern recognition, vendor shortcuts, repeated overrides, audit flags dismissed with executive approval, all routed through one department, Graham's. The mistake he accused me of approving, I had rejected it, in writing, twice, and I had receipts. I powered up my workstation and logged into a mirrored archive server. Every email Graham had forwarded on my behalf, every approval he'd backdated, every internal chat instructing staff to bypass protocol just this once. He fired me because he thought that archive died with my badge. He was wrong. At 8:42 p.m., I sent a single encrypted packet to 3 addresses: my attorney, an external audit firm, and Lena Morell, a board member who'd once asked me very quietly if I ever felt pressured to sign things I didn't approve. Subject line: incident trace, Holt authorization chain. Then I slept better than I had in months. The next morning, I returned to Northwell, not as an employee. At 9:15 a.m., the lobby buzzed with confusion. Security was tense. Receptionist whispered. Something had shifted overnight. I walked in wearing charcoal slacks and a white blouse, hair tied back. I didn't rush. I didn't hide. Graham stepped off the elevator mid-laugh, coffee in hand. When he saw me, the smile collapsed like wet cardboard. "Alara," he said, "you're not authorized." "Actually," Lena Morell said, stepping out behind him, "you are." Graham froze. "Effective immediately, you are relieved of decision-making authority pending an internal investigation. Please hand over your devices." Graham laughed, a short, sharp bark. "This is absurd. On what basis?" Lena gestured toward me. "The basis you tried to bury." I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Security moved in. As Graham protested, loudly now, I stepped into the elevator and pressed for the executive floor, the same floor I'd been banned from due to restructuring 6 months earlier. The doors opened into glass and steel and tension. Waiting for me was Miles Rennick, Northwell's COO, and the man who taught Graham how to manipulate process without leaving fingerprints. Or so he thought. Miles stood as I entered. "This is highly irregular." "So was forging my approvals," I replied. I placed a slim folder on his desk. Inside, logs, IP traces, internal memos, a video recording from a vendor call where Miles explicitly instructed Graham to loop Alara and later so it looks clean. Miles didn't sit back. He didn't bluster. He went very still. "You're accusing me of criminal misconduct," he said carefully. "No, I'm documenting it." That distinction matters in court. Before he could respond, Lena entered with 2 other board members and a representative from the audit firm. Miles didn't look at them. He looked at me. "You planned this," he said quietly. I shook my head. "I prepared for it." That's when everything should have ended. But it didn't. Because as the audit team began securing files, I noticed something off. A locked cabinet behind Miles' desk. New hardware. Too new. I asked for it to be opened. Miles hesitated half a second too long. Inside were resignation letters. 7 of them. Senior engineers, product leads, all dated for the end of the week. Each included transfer agreements and pre-negotiated exits. Miles had been planning a controlled collapse. If Graham went down, the company would hemorrhage talent overnight, forcing a buyout at a fraction of its value. It wasn't damage control, it was sabotage. Lena looked at me. "You didn't mention this." "I didn't know," I said honestly. And that's when I understood something dangerous. This wasn't about blaming me for a mistake. It was about removing the person who could trace the damage. I looked at Miles. "Who else knows?" He smiled thinly. "You always were thorough, but you never saw the whole board." He was right. One seat at the table was empty all morning. Caleb Iyer, strategy director, silent, invisible, untouchable. Until now, because Caleb and I shared a history from years ago, before Northwell, before titles, when he asked me to help him bury a compliance violation at another firm. I refused, and I kept the email. I forwarded it to the board projector. The room changed temperature. Caleb didn't deny it. He just sighed. "You never let things go," he said. "No," I replied. "I let liars hang themselves." By noon, 3 executives were suspended. An emergency shareholders meeting was scheduled. External auditors took over operations. Graham was escorted out past the same desks where he'd fired me. No one looked away this time. That night, my phone buzzed with a blocked number. "You think you won?" I deleted it. Because winning wasn't the point. Cleaning rot is ugly, loud, uncomfortable, but necessary. 2 weeks later, Northwell announced a full leadership overhaul, independent compliance authority, and whistleblower protections that actually worked. Lena offered me my job back. I declined. Instead, I took a role as an external compliance architect, untouchable, unowned. The mistake I never made nearly ended my career, but it exposed something far more valuable. Truth doesn't need permission, it just needs patience, and when people mistake your silence for weakness, let them. That's when they make their worst decisions of their lives.